Have you ever thought, I'll take the FE exam later, only to realize later means more stress and forgotten concepts? Timing your FE exam isn't just a scheduling decision, it can make or break your chances of passing. In this episode of Pass the FE Exam, I'm joined by Chris Miller, General Manager at School of PE, a division of EduMind. Chris is going to share expert advice of when to take the exam, how to build a prep strategy that fits your lifestyle, and the common mistakes to avoid if you want to pass on your first try. School of PE has helped many students and engineers pass both the FE and PE exams, so Chris has a lot of knowledge to draw from. We'll also talk about how you can stay consistent when life gets busy, how to turn weak areas into strengths, and how to stay calm and focused when test day finally comes around. If you're feeling unsure about when or how to begin your FE exam journey, this episode will give you the clarity and confidence needed to move forward. I'm your host, Anthony Fasano, and I'm excited to bring you this valuable episode of Pass the FE Exam. Before we get started, here's a word from our sponsor for today's episode, School of PE. Are you putting off preparing for licensure? Waiting for life to slow down so you have time to prep? Months from now, you could find yourself still waiting for the right time. Or you could start preparing today with School of PE. Take the guesswork out of exam prep. With 93% pass rates, expert instructors, and a pass guarantee, you'll be walking into that exam fully prepared. Make the right choice today. Enroll now and save 32% with promo code EMI32 at schoolofpe.com. That's SCHOOL of PE.com. All right, now I'd like to welcome my guest onto the show for today. Chris Miller is the General Manager at School of PE, a division of EduMind. Chris, I want to welcome you to Pass the FE Exam.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
So, Chris, let's start with your journey. What first drew you to the world of engineering education, and how did your path lead you to becoming the General Manager at School of PE?
Good question. Interesting, actually. So you got to go all the way back to 2012. I'm driving home and I get a phone call from Vinod Dega, founder of School of PE. He said, "Hey, I saw your resume out there and want to know if you wanted to come in for an interview. I'm looking for someone to monitor live online classes." I'm like, "Sure, what the heck is that?" So I come in, I meet him, he gives me this big old PowerPoint presentation, and he's like, "I only need you 2 days a week." This was back when they were spring and October exams, right? So you come in for the spring, you go away, and you come back in the fall. So I said, sure, came in there and just started monitoring classes and disappear for, 4 months, come back in the fall. And then in the fall of 2013, they were launching School of PM, which is their project management division, PMP exam, and other project management related training. And he said, "Hey, you want to get involved with this?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? Let's do this," right? So I helped them create the PMP course. And then they were offering some live online PMP courses. They had an instructor who couldn't teach anymore. So Vinod's like, "Man, we got 2 classes with like 30 some students left. What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, you guys are PMPs." He's like, "I'm not teaching." He's like, "Why don't you teach?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" Right. So it was 5 weeks off. So I said, plenty of time to prepare. And sure enough, taught the PMP and then started getting more involved with the School of PE classes, working with instructors to create notes and things like that. And then just kind of ballooned from there. And then, I think it was 2019, got promoted to associate vice president. And then just this past May, I got promoted to general manager. I've been kind of rolling along since.
That's great. And I mentioned it earlier in the intro, but School of PE does help engineering professionals get their PE license. They take them through the FE exam, help them with the FE exam and the PE exam. And Chris, I think your sentiment there is really good advice for, I think, all professionals. Is sometimes you just need to jump up and raise your hand and try something out, even if you're not comfortable with it. That's what I tell people all the time, is usually if you're doing something that's not comfortable, you're probably headed in the right direction in your career.
100% agree. If I wouldn't have raised my hand or got volunteered, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. So
Exactly. So from your experience, when is the ideal time for students or recent graduates to take the FE exam, and maybe talk about the risks of delaying that?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So, I tell students that I talk to that you fall in one or two categories, right? You're either getting ready to graduate college or you're N number of years removed. So what is the approach to taking the FE? So, ideally, it's within the 12 months of graduating, the university or college. NCS only looks at two time periods, immediately after college and then 12 months after. So statistics do show that, it is ideal to take it within the 12 months of graduation, and then the pass rates do drop proportionate to the amount of time that you're outside of college. However, though, don't let this discourage you from being the time that you decide to take on the path to getting your FE. So whether you're getting ready to graduate or you've been out of school for, 10, 15 years, don't be afraid to jump in there and start preparing for your FE.
Yeah, and I was one of those engineers who kind of got lucky because the college that I went to, I'll give them a shout out, Lafayette College. They basically more or less required us to take it and bust us to the exam, which I'm very
Oh,
thankful for
wow.
at this point because if I had gotten off that path and maybe not taken it, which is easy to do. I mean, listen, you're taking final exams, you're looking to graduate, you got all kinds of senior parties going on, right? Like the last thing you're kind of want to think about is taking a long exam like that, like the FE exam. But to Chris's point, once you get out into the real world, if you will, and you get a job and maybe you have a family, you have a lot of responsibilities, it can become a lot more complicated, as Chris suggests, with the passing rates, dropping off once you're removed from the school. So that is something that you should do. But at the same time, if you didn't do it, it's okay. That shouldn't discourage you from, pushing on and pursuing that license. And, you know, let's talk about that a little bit, Chris. For those kind of unsure here, kind of where to start their FE exam journey, especially those that are balancing school, work, family. How can they structure their prep timeline and try to stay consistent even with everything else going on in life?
No, that's a great question, and you said it. Consistency is key, right? Developing a consistent, whether it be a timeline or pattern of study habits, is going to be key. You can't do your studying and prep in spots of time. So, I think of it this way, like, let's say you want to go on an intense calorie deficit for the weekend to lose weight, right? That doesn't then translate into your ultimate fitness goals that people develop and take months to achieve, right? So consistency is key, but also building a habit of repetition, right? To get used to these topics and subtopics that you'll see on the exam. Exposure is also key, right? Getting exposed to not just the content, but practice questions is going to help you in the long run as well. Best practices say that, or at least what I tell people is you are going to want to spend about an hour and a half to 3 hours every day for about 2.5 to 3 months preparing for the FE, and then longer durations on the weekends. I also tell people before you even start preparing for the FE, schedule your exam. That way hey, on October 1st, I'm going to be sitting for the FE. Don't wait until September 15th to say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and schedule that October exam, because you may find out that the exam center is full. And then it throws a monkey wrench in your preparation, and then your timeline is long as well. So schedule it and commit to the plan is key.
Yeah, what I like about that is that's really a good it's very in line with engineering projects, right? Like when you have an engineering project, you have a deadline.
Yep.
You have a permit deadline, you have a ribbon cutting deadline. When you're able to sign yourself up for that exam first, now you can back into a study plan, right?
Yep.
You have the end goal in mind and you can put all your resources into that. A couple of things that worked well for me was when I signed up for the exam, I actually told my boss that I'm taking the exam this day and I need to take off this day because that I felt accountable to him because now he
Yeah.
knows I'm taking it, right? So there's a little bit of a pressure there for me to study and prepare. The other thing that I'll say to those of you out there, especially those of you that are working while you're trying to pass the FE exam, and this is coming from my take on it when I did the PE exam because I was working, is you got to create, like Chris was saying, habits and consistency. And the way that I'd like to do it was I put it on my calendar. Like,
Yeah.
and I would actually study. We had a young child at the time, so I was actually getting up early in the morning, maybe doing an hour before I went to work because it worked for me. But
Yeah.
whatever works for you, put it on your calendar, make it a regular part of your day, and make sure you're doing it consistently, just like going to work every day, right? Just like doing the other things that you do every day, go to the gym at night after work or whatever it is. You have to incorporate this into something that's important to you and that you're doing consistently. And listen, just keep it in the back of your mind that it's not something you're going to do forever, hopefully, assuming you pass it, right? The first time or second time around. But you need to create those habits for yourself. That's what's going to drive the consistency that Chris talked about. And that was very helpful for me in my preparation efforts.
Agree. One other thing I want to add, Anthony, too, is like make sure you get buy-in from your friends and family, right? Say, hey, I'm I'm going to spend the next 3 to 4 months preparing for the FE exam. That way they know what commitments you can commit to that, are family related or anything like that. So get buy-in from them. But also, as you mentioned, sometimes you have small kids, get creative with your schedule. Maybe it's early mornings that work best for you. You have, lunch break or something like that, but get creative with your schedule to maximize that time to be able to prepare for the FE.
Yeah, that is important. Getting that buy-in from your family, because it is a big time commitment for you up to those months leading up to the exam, and communicating that to them and the milestone and what it means to you in your career, I think can be really important in getting their support, which is invaluable. So, Chris, you've been around a lot of people. School of PE helps a lot of people pass the FE exam. In all the classes you've been in and all the things you've seen, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes that students make during the FE prep process, and any tips for avoiding them or being aware of them?
Yeah, no, great question. So first I tell people go in with the mindset that you're only going to take the exam one time, right? Not like, hey, let me go take it and see how it goes, because the pass rates go down proportionately for repeat takers. So go in with the mindset you're only going to take it once. Sometimes when you teach exam prep courses or you're part of them, students just think you show up, sprinkle a little pixie dust on you, you go, you take for the exam, and you pass that exam. So, just simply relying on like, hey, I'm attending a course or I'm watching lecture videos isn't enough. It's like, what do you do outside of that class time that's going to pay out huge dividends, right? Going back through the materials, working through practice exams, going through the question bank. So, go in there not thinking I'm just going to attend class. Great. But what are you going to do in between classes and after classes is just as important, if not more important than the classes, sitting through the classes themselves.
Can I buy some of that pixie dust on the School of PE website?
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, that's the thing is like, when I taught the PMP boot camps, people were like, "Oh yeah, just show up and
Right.
they're going to go pass the exam." I'm like, well, no, it's a great idea, but you got to put in the work, put your nose to the
Right.
grindstone, do it with a mindset of one time, and you're going to pass it. And because you don't want to spend another 3 4 months preparing for an exam.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
Last thing
that.
I was going to add
Oh,
to
good.
Anthony too is like take a practice exam early to develop a baseline, right? It kind of helps you see where your weaknesses are in the various areas on the exam specs or on the exam syllabus, but also develop time management skills. For FE, like 110 questions, 5 hours, 20 minutes, you're like, oh man, this is easy. That's a long amount of time. You go through a practice exam, you're like, holy cow, 10 minutes left, 30 questions left, right?
Wow.
So developing a cadence and time management is also key to your success on the FE.
Yeah, that's great. A couple of things just I want to hit on from what Chris said. First of all, that first point that Chris made I think is really important. Plan on taking it once. I can't tell you how many people tell me, I'm just going to sign up the first time and take it without studying, see how it goes, get a feel for the exam. Like, why would you want to waste any of your time? I think Chris's last point of taking a baseline exam as a practice exam as part of a review course or, as part of a preparation is a better way to do it, right? Baseline yourself, then create a study plan based around your strengths, your weaknesses, what you need to improve on. I think that's a really valuable thing. And I think the one thing that Chris said is something that we need to just take to heart in life is do the work. You got to do the work every day. You got to show up and do the work. Um, I read a great book not too long ago called Chop Wood, Carry Water. I won't go into the whole book, but it's a story about basically an American man who wanted to become a Japanese samurai. And he found a town in Japan where they were training Japanese samurais. And when he went there to do his training, they explained to him that, listen, we don't have any heat or water here. So every day you have to chop wood and carry water as part of that's just what everyone does here. Oh, okay, no problem. So he started doing it. And he said, how long do I have to do this? He said, well, you do this for 2 years before you start your samurai training. But the point of it was that every day he was building all the muscles he needed to become a samurai. He was becoming mentally and physically fit. And so the phrase like chop wood, carry water is basically like show up every day, do the work, right? And get really good in the fundamentals. So we kind of use that phrase loosely here at EMI, like we got to keep, chopping wood and carrying water every day. So to Chris's point, get your study schedule down and do it every day. Don't take a
Yep.
day off, show up and do it. Maybe one day is not as good as the other, but you can't expect to show up on the exam day unless you've put the work in and prepared yourself. And by the way, if you pass this exam, there's no looking back, right?
Yep.
You go on to the next step. Maybe it's the PE, and then you pass the PE and no one can take that away from you. So what I love about the PE licensure process is it's the most important thing in your career, most likely, or one of them. It's worth like 3 to 6 months of investing your time in to get to that level. You're just going to have to put the work in. So let's keep that in mind. All right. So, Chris, another issue that a lot of engineers and students deal with is test day anxiety, right? It's a very stressful day. You've studied all this leading up to it. What tips can you share for kind of managing some of that test day anxiety and staying focused under pressure during the actual FE exam?
Yeah, that's another good question. So, if you prepare well, you're going to perform well, right? So, if you did your preparation, then exam day should be easy, right? One thing I always tell people too is like, as I alluded to earlier, is like, you don't want to put in these longer sessions of study, right? The reason being is, we're not designed to sit there for 5 hours and 20 minutes solving problems, right? So if you don't practice those 5.5 hour sessions, you're not going to become accustomed to doing that. And that's going to be a pitfall that you're going to come across on the exam. But just going in with a mindset of you don't have to get 100% on the exam, right? Um, take every question one by one. Go through and answer all the low hanging fruit, the easy questions first, right? Get those out of the way. But as you come across those other questions, make sure you put an answer for every single question, flag it for review. So if the objective of the question is not clear and you don't see a path towards a solution, skip it and come back. But again, make sure you mark it for review and put an answer choice there. One of the reasons why I tell people to always make sure you put an answer choice is, let's say you do run out of time. At least you had an answer option for that question. You have a 25% chance of getting that particular problem correct versus if you just leave it blank, you have a 0% chance. So time management, remember, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, but it just comes down to preparation. If you're well prepared, you're going to perform well on exam day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is, preparation is everything. I always tell people a lot of times when you're nervous, it's maybe because you didn't prepare enough, right? And you're thinking about, what did I forget? I should have prepped more. The other thing that I think can be really helpful is do a practice exam in like a timed environment, like ahead of the exam, right? Put yourself in that pressure situation before you actually show up on that day. And I actually interviewed a guy by the name of Mason Mallard on the channel here. He's a PE, but he was a professional baseball player. He was in the Tampa Bay Rays minor league system. And we had this conversation a little bit. And what he was saying was like the same thing goes in sports. It's like if you prepare the right way, right? When you show up on game day, it's a lot easier because you're
Yep.
prepared and you're ready to go. And he was kind of using the same analogies. If you prepare ahead of these exams, when you show up, you're ready to go because you kind of prepped yourself. And again, you did the work like we said earlier. So I think that is definitely one of the hurdles of passing the FE and the PE exams is test day because it is really pressure filled and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But I think a lot of the stuff that Chris talked about today leading up to the exam gets you in the right frame of mind for that day and prepares you for it. And that's you have to kind of let all that take care of itself, if you will, as you get there. All right. So Chris, as we start to get close to wrapping up here, talk to us a little bit about how School of PE helps students with the FE exam. What can you do? How can you help them? What resources do you have? We'd love to share some of that with them.
Sure, I appreciate that, Anthony. So School of PE, we have an FE course for all 7 different FEs. Everything from FE Civil all the way down to like FE Chemical, FE Industrial. We also offer various delivery methods based on your way of studying. Maybe you're someone that doesn't need needs flexibility. We have on-demand, self-paced, you go through it at your own time. Or maybe you're someone that needs that accountability, like, hey, I got to be somewhere this time, these days. We have live online classes where you have live instructions scheduled throughout the week. If you're somebody that's, looking to just kind of study on their own, we have question bank options as well. So those are some of the options that we have to help you prepare for the FE. Sometimes, people are like, well, I need a little bit more than just a course, meaning like maybe I need a little bit of guidance. So we have instructors that will meet with students to kind of walk through expectations or best exam tips and strategies. Maybe you're a repeat taker. So you'll meet with an SME to go over your diagnostics, develop a game plan, trying to get at the root cause of why you didn't pass the first time. So we do diagnostic evaluations as well. Helping identify your weaker areas, we have a personalized study plan option where students will rank their knowledge in the various areas that are on exam. So that way they can kind of allocate their time going through the materials of like, hey, mathematics, I'm a 5. Well, then you can spend less time going through those modules versus maybe geotechnical is a weak area of yours. You can spend more time. So the personalized study plan, one of the great things for that is for the on-demand students that don't think they need the accountability, well, that's your accountability tool. It tells you, what you committed to studying and when. So we have resources that fit any delivery method, whether you're someone that needs, flexibility or you need accountability. We have options that will, fit those for you.
That's great. And I'm a big proponent of taking a review course for the FE and the PE exams. And I'll give you 3 reasons that I think it's critical. One reason is the accountability factor that Chris mentioned. There are a lot of resources online. I mean, you can find stuff all over the place, books. The problem is how are you going to commit to actually following through on that, right? Usually it's nice to have an outside party that's holding you accountable for it. That's important. And I found that in my career, in my life. The second thing that I thought was really helpful in terms of taking a review course, because I did take review courses for my exams, is the structure, right? There's a lot of topics to cover, a lot of things you have to get through, and trying to figure that out on your own, especially if you are a working professional, it's kind of a job in itself. So when you take a course, they have the whole syllabus laid out for you. They step through it for you, and you can follow that structure, which is really, really valuable. And the last one that I think is really important about it is you can build up a support group with other people taking the course, right? Like the community around you is so important because, first of all, it's great to know there's other people that are going through the same thing that I'm going through right now. I mean, that's always important in life. And beyond that, if you want to get together with them and go through some of the problems, you can, right? And it just provides that level of support that makes it just feels a lot less daunting when you're going through it with other people. And I found that those are some of the things that are really helpful when you take a review course that maybe aren't that obvious when you sign up for a course. You're thinking about, oh, I'm signing up for the course, they're going to help me pass. But there's reasons that it works. And those are some of the reasons that I found that have been really, really helpful for me, at least.
No, that makes sense. Earlier we talked about pixie dust, right? We are kind of making humor on pixie dust. So I guess our pixie dust would be our instructors are really good at filtering down to what you need to know to pass the exam. Because, as you mentioned, there are a lot of topics, 13 plus topics for the FE Civil. You're like, holy cow, that's a lot of information. So our courses are designed to get you to pass the FE. So our instructors are really good about filtering that information down and focusing on what you need to study for to be successful on the FE.
Yeah, and one other point that I'll make that I didn't mention before, one of the benefits I think of taking a course with a reputable company like School of PE is that if anything changes with the exam, right, the topics, the categories, the layout, they're going to adjust their course to match that. Whereas if you're trying to handle something like that on your own, it's really difficult to keep up today because, NCSS, like things are always changing with the exam. So that's something that you do actually have to be aware of, that you don't want to use outdated materials or, you don't want to be studying for one format of the test when now it's in a different format. So that's something that, you want to understand the basics of the exam in terms of how it's distributed and what topics are going to be on it. And that's something that I think a company like School of P can help you with, just making sure that you're studying the right stuff, basically. All right, Chris, any kind of last parting words for the audience? Where can they find out about School of PE?
Yeah, so come to schoolofpe.com and, select the course that you're studying for the exam and pick which best method is for you, whether it's on demand, live online, or if you're someone that just needs a little bit of additional help and just want question bank, come check us out.
All right, it's good stuff here. We hope that you found this information to be helpful for you. This is a huge test in terms of, your career. We know that it means a lot to you to get that license, but just remember, it is definitely it's a long game, right? You got to study, you got to put the work in like we talked about here. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but the kind of pot of gold at the end of the rainbow here is extremely valuable for you in your career. So once again, Chris Miller, General Manager, School of PE. Chris, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on Pass the FE Exam.
Thank you, Anthony. It was a pleasure.
I hope you found this week's video helpful. In upcoming videos, we will answer more of your FE exam questions and run through more practice problems. Pass the FE Exam will publish videos weekly, so please be sure to click the subscribe button as you'll get expert tips and tricks, including practice problem solutions weekly to ensure that you pass the FE Exam. And I encourage you to ask questions and leave comments below this video, and I will read and respond to them. Maybe there's a specific question you need answered or a problem you need solved. Pass the FE Exam will have you covered. I'll see you next week on Pass the FE Exam.